I'm going to do an insight video today. Like I said, over the last few days, I've had a shifting in consciousness. I've had a shifting in reality and a shifting in frequency, and also in how I express reality and how I express my spiritual sort of energy, my spiritual frequency. And a lot of this is down to sort of being shifted and guided towards like source energy. And you know, it's a shift in consciousness. It's a shift in like collective consciousness as beings, as we start to understand that we're moving past sort of like the external world, and we're moving into like the spiritual reality and the energetic realities, and we start to sort of access our energy fields in a different way. And source energy is very different in that way. It's a creative blueprint, and it's like this sense of like the creator, which is this force that's within each and every one of us, that we have the ability to shift and change. So how this experience manifests itself or resonates with me is in many different ways. So the source energy is sort of like, once you recognize that and you start to shift and change towards source energy, you start to realize that you know, you have a blueprint, you have a sort of like a frequency that you can start to create reality. And source reality that does source energy does that. It's shifting, it aligns with you, it moves through you, and it starts to then activate those qualities of your soul, of your energy, and it starts to then manifest within the physical realms and the physical reality. And this is what source energy does. It's this essence that each and every one of us has, that then sort of like creates through us. So source energy creates, and everything is source energy. Any kind of experience, any kind of feeling, emotions, are all aspects of source energy, because source energy is the creative force that creates all things. So all reality is an expression of source. So there's many ways to sort of connect into source and realize and start to understand that, you know, source has many sort of expressions to it. You know, there's many sort of like expressions of source, and you, depending on your level of consciousness, depends on the level of source that you express and you also sort of like manifest and create. So source energy is infinite. It's an infinite expansive sort of energy and frequency, but it's also you know, the source energy expresses itself in many different ways, and sort of like the purpose of each and every soul and each and every spiritual being is to get back to that source, is to start to reconnect to it, and then to express it as a human being in our human form. So there's many ways to do that. So in that way, each and every sort of experience and event, however difficult or bad, are a blessing, and an opportunity to return to source, which is to return to that creator within each and every one of us, that we know that we can align and we can start to express that energy, and start to shift any kind of reality. So we are creative beings, we are a creator, and the source energy and the essence in each and every one of us gives us the ability to do that. So when we start to realize that, then what we can start to do is we can start to shift our reality at any moment. But also, everything is every sort of like the universal law of polarity is like, you've got like the north, so that each has an opposite. Like each aspect of spirit or source energy has an opposite, but each is an opportunity to return back to source. And this is what we're here to do. This is what we're here to do as universal beings and as spiritual beings. This is why we're given, and this is why we've incarnated, is to start to align with that source energy, that creator will, so we can start to create a reality of spiritual reality, but also it allows like source energy to create and manifest in everything that we do. We are channels of source energy. So in that sense, each and every one of us has the ability to shift and change. So there is no good or bad. There is no right or wrong. There's no up and down. That's all sort of like physical terminology. When you start talking about source energy, everything is source. Every experience, everything is source, but it's also an opportunity to return to source. So when we start to look at our lives in that way, nothing's good or bad, nothing's right or wrong in that sense. It's just an opportunity to open, expand, and to once again align with that source energy, so we can start to awaken as creators. Awaken as creators within this reality, within this within this energetic reality, which is what it is. Everything is a source of energies. Everything is energy. So as I'm reading or doing this insight at the moment, I feel like I'm aligned to my source energy. And why do I feel like this? Well, what tells me I feel like this is, I cannot explain this, but this is how it's always felt. So a lot of people talk about everything starts from inner frequencies, inner reality, and that's where all creation begins. And this is what I truly believe. But how I experience when I'm aligned to source energy or source frequency, one, I feel very expansive. So I feel like that the human aspect of self is not really there anymore. There's an infinite sort of like resonance and feeling or frequency of being everything and all things at once. But I also feel like my physical form sort of like disappears, but I just feel like I remain as a consciousness, as a conscious sort of like energetic frequency. And I also feel like um, I'm looking out from within. And now that's a strange thing to say to people, but it's also how I felt for a long time. So when I connected into source energy and I'm connected into my source frequency, I feel like the external world is out there, but I'm sort of like I'm looking out at the outside world from within, and it's like that within that being like that frequency within is the energy, it's the source code, it's like the frequency of the creative frequency. It's the frequency that you can start to see that you've got this energetic energy and frequency that you can just access, and you can shift and create reality. And that's how it feels. I also see it in another way where for a long time, um, I've always been sort of like since 18, 19 years of age, I've been sort of open to spiritual energy. I see it in many different ways. I've always seen sort of colours. I mean, and when I shift my frequency, I see colours. They're everywhere. I see like big orbs of colour, like blue, like orange and gold and stuff like that. And that's like a spiritual reality. It's another sort of shift in consciousness. Um, but I also see everything in the planet vibrates. Everything vibrates with a frequency. Everything is energy. And I know this because I see it physically, and I have done for probably the last 20 years. But I've never really understood it until the shift in consciousness of late, where I'm starting to talk about like source energy. I start to realize that when I'm in that source energy frequency, that I'm actually able to see the physical world vibrate as energy. And I've been able to see that for a long time, but I haven't really understood it until the shift happened in my consciousness. And this is what's going on with the alignment and the shift for a lot of us at the moment. I've also been guided to a few things of late, around sort of like I said, I've been listening to a lady named Leanne Rose, who by the way is fantastic. She's got a great energy to her, and she sort of like talks about six dimensional manifestation, and she talks about the Gaia, or the Gaia collective. It's a hard word to say, but she's got this collective of beings that work with her. She's a trans medium in that way, and it's she's been talking about this 6D manifestation. She's been talking about creators. She's been talking about energy in that way and source energy. But a lot of stuff I feel like I've had to do like a lot of reflection lately, and what I mean by that is I've had to reflect back to times. And this again is a really interesting sort of concept, because we live in a physical world. Well, we don't, but we the illusion is that we believe we live in a physical world where there is time, and there is the past, the present, and whatever. But actually, that's the illusion, that we're not. We're not. So getting connected with time and getting connected with past, present is what gets us stuck sometimes, because we end up in cycles. When actually, if you really know how the universe works, the universe works as one stream or one flow of energy, and there is no disconnection. There's no, everything's existing at one time in one moment at the same time and vibrating. So there is no separation, there is no disconnection, and this is so when you start to realize this, then you start to realize that there's just been a shift or an expansion in frequencies and energies, and when you start to realize that, then your whole concept as a spiritual being, you start to see the infinity of your being as being like this source energy. This source energy doesn't die. It never sort of like, it can't be destroyed. It's like when they talk about the universal law of transmutation, which is what we're talking about here. Is transmutation is going from one state of being to another, or going from one like your energy shifts and changes, and this is how the universe works. The universe is this vibrating thing that just goes like this, yeah. And depending on how you come online with that vibration, and your energy, that you shift and change it, then it shifts and changes your reality. So it then changes your whole view of the world, and your view of your reality, your view of your life, your view of each other. Everything shifts, and it can shift as you expand that energy. When you expand and open up to source then expresses itself, and then it sort of creates and manifests in a different way that shows you another aspect of reality. And this is what happens with the spiritual dimensions. This is what happens with it happens in our physical dimension, and this is what tells you as well that with source energy that we're connected to it, because we expand and we shift in our change, and our view changes as our consciousness changes. So that tells you we're very much like spirit. We are spirit walking in a physical world. And this is another thing. It's like I feel that we get caught up in the like guides and stuff like that, and we look at guides and we're always trying to connect to them, when actually we're like those guides. We're spiritual entities, we're spiritual beings incarnated in a physical form, and that's our source. And this Leanne Rose uses this word like sovereignty, which is like where she talks about sovereignty is like that human aspect of self, but it's also an awakening. It's an understanding that as source energy, you are like everything else in the universe. Like guides and beings are not separate from you. Ascended masters are not separate from you. They're all part of the whole. They're all part of the universe. They're part of source energy, which is part of the whole, which is part of the universal law of oneness. And this is what we're all part of. And when we start to expand and realize that, then we start to really realize and align that we are these creative beings. We are a creator being, and in that sense, there is no limitations. There is no boundaries. There's no barriers. The only barrier is when we're not aligned to that energy. When we start sort of like, we expand, and then we retract again and come back into our human form. When we come back in that human form, then we sometimes sort of like our view then becomes sort of like narrow again. And the whole purpose of this spiritual journey is to keep our view expanded, opened up to our source energy, our source code, our source creation. And this is what this time's about. And so it's opening up your energy and realizing that you are a creator being. There will be fear, there will be doubt, there will be stress, anxiety, there will be barriers and stuff that come out, but there are also an opportunity to move past it and let go of that and realize, and then start to and all of these are an opportunity to there are opportunities of being human, and then being able to then sort of you come back into this like human consciousness, and you become sort of again sort of limited in a way, but they're also an opportunity again to expand again and start to sort of integrate more and more and dissolve more and more, so that you start to then know that you are this creator being. You have this creative sort of vibration and frequency. So human sort of suffering is an opportunity to awaken. Human suffering or human challenges are an opportunity to awaken. And when you start to realize that they're part of the source, and everything's part of source, whether it's good, bad, or anything, you also know it's an opportunity again. It's an opportunity to expand, to let go, to experience, but it's also an opportunity to integrate and to start to create reality. It's an opportunity to shift your reality. And source will give you that opportunity if you're not you know, it's like in that sense, source energy, you know, the suffering is an opportunity again for you to align with your source energy, to shift that reality. So if you're stuck, you'll be given opportunities that will maybe seem difficult or challenging, but they're given to you, for you to then to awaken to that creative force and that energy, to know that you can shift and change that, so then you can become back into alignment. So actually, when you go through difficult times in your life, you think they're a barrier, when they're actually a blessing. They're a blessing for you to expand and open. They're an opportunity for you to awaken to your true nature, to your true self. And what I was going, I've digressed a little bit, but I wanted to go back to, I want to go back. I've been taken back to talk about this reflection again. And what I wanted to talk about was this sense of, the shift in reality, but the shift in consciousness, and the shift in like realities, and the spiritual realities and dimensions, the dimensional shifts that have been coming through. And I was talking about this lady Leanne Rose, who talks about Seed 16 manifestation, and some of her sort of like YouTube sort of channelings and stuff. They're great to watch. Go and find them on YouTube. But what it does for me, and I was talking about this notion of time and the illusion of time, and what it was bringing me back to was like saying, I now know that every single one of my sort of like my experiences, where I was back maybe 10-15 years ago, I'm using time as a frame, just to frame something, but it's an illusion. Believe me, it's an illusion, because I still like, I'm looking at it now, and I know that at that time I was connected to source energy, and I know this because I can see the natural flow. I can see a natural flow from where that was to where I am now. But the even bigger expansion is, I've seen the natural flow of my own life, and my own source experience has been connected to the planetary experience. And what I mean by that is, 3D, 4D, 5D, now 6D, I can see the flow. I can see the flow from that moment of where I awakened as a spiritual being. And when I say about awakening as a spiritual being, I'll clarify and define that when I became conscious of it. Because I was always a spiritual being. I've been a spiritual being. I've never been disconnected. So source creates everything in my life. So I can't be disconnected for something that creates my reality. But the difference is when you become conscious. And my awakening consciousness happened when I was about 18 or 20. I started to see colours, started to see energy. I went into Reiki, I started doing spiritual healing, I went to spiritual churches, all of those kind of things. And all of that was an opportunity to awaken to source. But as I start to see it now, you look around and you've seen a lot of spiritual teachers, you've seen a lot of spiritual people that have been doing healing, and they've been doing modalities or models of like spiritual healing, spiritual mediumship. All of that was connected by source to the planet. So each shift of like reality into a different like frequency is source energy coming down, and it's opening up each and every so as the planet opens, we open. They're interconnected. They're not separate. Nothing is separate. This is the illusion that we're all sort of born into. There is nothing separate in life. Yeah, source energy, the planet, everything is interconnected. The spirit world, everything. Nothing is separate because it's all source. So in that sense, nothing can be separate. So as you look back, like I've looked back through my life, right? I've been very sensitive for many, many years, and I've always felt like I'm connected into source energy, and I have been, because now as I reflect on it, I know this. But I've always been that kind of person, thinking, oh, look at that, well, look what they're doing. Oh, look at what they're doing out there. Oh, look at what that person do. So I've been looking outside, and I've been looking at those kind of things for a long time. And as I reflect upon it now, I realise, and I thought, well, how's that person, connected to that, or why has that person got that? But I've also realised that source energy has been manifesting on the planet. But also I've realised, looking back now, that it's always been flowing, but it's been flowing onto the planet and it's been shifting reality from a 3, 4, 5, now onto 6D, and it will go 7, 8, whatever, 9D, however the higher dimensions that we can relate to in this human form. It will keep shifting towards that way, but it only shifts when the planet's aligned. The planet has to be aligned with the vibration, the frequency. Everything has to be aligned with it. It doesn't happen alone. Everything is part of everything else. So, the blueprint shifts and changes, and reality changes when the planet's harmonized. And when the planet's harmonized, we shift. Nothing. You were. So, in that sense, even looking back, I was always in the right time at the right place, even though I didn't think I was, because I was always searching for more. And I was searching for more because I know within myself as a source energy being that I've always been open to light energy, seeing it, feeling like I'm a light energy. I've been open to that, and I've realised that I've had experiences where I started a group years ago called Atlantis Reclaimed, and that was very much around because Atlantis was resonating with me. But that was the start of opening up vibrations, the universal vibrations, and the opening of coming back to source, for the planet to shift. So we're always in the right place. Although we feel like we should be going or doing something different or being more, we're not, because we're in the right place, because source is already aligning. But it will shift when the frequency is right on the planet. So wanting something and trying to get to something is not going to make any difference, because it's aligned. There's a design, there's a blueprint to it, and it's vibrating and it's opening as it should do. So although you felt like 3D reality years ago, oh, what am I doing in this? I should be in 5D reality. You weren't, because the planet can only shift and align, and source energy will shift and align when we all come online, or when the planet's online, and then that will allow the new energies to come in. So we were in the right place, even though we thought we were in the wrong place, and we were exactly perfect where we were then. And what's happening now is as we align with that more, and we know that when we're securing the perfection of the design and the moment of source energy, then we start to realise that we will open and we will vibrate, and everything will come into union and harmony when the energy, the frequency is right. So we're not waiting. It's showing that it's a perfect design, it's perfect union, it's perfect harmony. But obviously there's parts of our soul or our beings that remember, and then when it remembers, it wants to be back where it was. Like, not leave the planet and go home, but you're already home, because there's nowhere to go home, because you're already exactly what you should be. You are connected to source, and you're this spiritual being. So the notion of, I want to go to the spirit world because it's going to be absolutely harmonious and it's going to be beautiful. You're already in the spirit world. You're already the spirit. There's nowhere to go. There's nothing to be, because you're already it. And when you start to think about it like that, it's like, whoa, because it's like you've been trying to get somewhere or to create something or be something when you're already it. You're already it. You've already been it. You're already it. The next shift is the awakening to that source energy and knowing it's there, and then and aligning with that level of consciousness that you know that you're it. And then that comes with this. Then as that happens, and you open up, and then you're a creative being, you're a creative source being that can bring, shift, and change reality. So nothing is there. There's no barriers. There's no, there's no sort of like things that you can't overcome, because that source energy is there, and you can shift and change and create. But again, it comes down to the vision. It comes down to trust. It comes down to opening up to that energy, and then aligning it, and taking time to nurture it. And again, it needs to be balanced. Again, I talk about polarities, good and bad, but there needs to be balance with it as well. Everything is, source energy is a pure balance of harmony, peace, love, whatever you want to say, but it's a pure balance. Everything in the universe is balanced, and when that balance comes into play, that's when things shift on a big level. So there's a lot of things in there today, but I just wanted to do like a sort of like insight on source energy, because it's a new concept. It's a new shift of reality, and spiritual reality for all of us, but we're awakening to it because we're moving through these different frequencies to the higher dimensional realities and understanding. And once we know we're source and we awaken to source, then we're connected to all things at once at all times. There's no separation. There can't be any separation because source is everything. It's all realities in one, vibrating at one, in one moment, in one vibration, in one frequency. And all you have to do is align with that. And once you align with that, then that's where the magic happens. That's where the miracles come. So that's the insight for today.